Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike with Gnarly Bear Mountain Biking, and today we'll be discussing the best mountain biking trails near Madison, Wisconsin. I lived in Madison for 2 years and mountain biked a ton while I lived there. I look back on my time in Madison very fondly. I started in Madison as an intermediate rider who was afraid of any jump bigger than like 4 or 5 feet, and progressed to a rider that can ride pretty much any feature on the trails we'll be discussing near Madison. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. It really helps out small creators like myself. We'll be discussing 7 trails today. These 7 trails are Pleasant View, also known as Middleton Bike Park, Blackhawk Trail System or Blackhawk Ski Area, Quarry Ridge, Seminole, Camrock, Mound, and Badger Prairie. I find there's more trails if you live on the west of Madison than on the east of Madison. 6 of these 7 of the trails are all west of Madison. So if you do want to mountain bike in Madison, consider living more on the west side. Middleton Bike Park is a beginner to intermediate cross-country trail system in Middleton, Wisconsin. It is 15 to 20 minutes from downtown Madison. It features 4 miles of cross-country and all-mountain terrain. The first half of the terrain is geared more towards cross-country riders. It's relatively flat and it has a few rollers and berms and a few small jumps and things, but everything's optional and everything's what I would consider like a green circle. Once you get to the back half of the trail, you have a few options. There's like a central meeting point, and then you can go right and go down slice, or you can go left and take some of the more cross-country style terrain. My favorite part of the trail is Slice. It features some downhill terrain with some steepness and berms and then some optional jumps. And then as you get to the bottom of it, you just start going back and forth on the berms, and you cross over a few wood bridges, and it's really just awesome. Middleton Bike Park is a great place to take beginners because it has a lot of it is smooth, and even a beginner could do Slice if they do it slowly. And then it has lots of small rollers, and small rollers are good for beginners because you can learn how to pump on them, or you can learn how to jump on them and get a little bit comfortable in the air. I personally enjoy going to Middleton Bike Park just for like a chill ride. None of the terrain is super challenging, even if you're like a intermediate to advanced rider. So it's really just to have a fun time in the woods and get some exercise. I would especially recommend it to newer riders because of the small rollers and the fact that it's only 4 miles, so you're always kind of close to the car no matter where you are. Going to our next trail, Middleton Bike Park actually connects to the Blackhawk Trail System. And again, this is called the Blackhawk Ski Area on Google Maps, so just type in directions to Blackhawk Ski Area if you want to go there in the summer. A quick note, you do have to have a $45 annual summer membership to mountain bike there. In my opinion, it's totally worth it. They treat the trails like really well here, and they have a lot of manicured jumps, drops, and features that you can't really find anywhere else. So if I were to give a general description of Blackhawk, I would say that it has the biggest jumps you can get near Madison. It has some like 20 to 25 foot tables that are absolutely massive, but at the same time you can ride them as a beginner because they're tables and they're really well built. You're kind of going uphill as you go off of the table, so the landing is really soft even if you case it, which, let's be honest, we're probably all gonna case it before we can clear it. Myself included. I've cased those jumps many times and I'm perfectly fine today. If you don't want to hit big jumps at Blackhawk, there's also a large selection of intermediate terrain. There's the Twist and Shout Trail, the Roller Coaster Trail, and a couple of other trails that just have like some nice rollers, berms, and then optional jumps if you want to hit those. Blackhawk does have some green trails, but I wouldn't say it's a good place to go to if you're a beginner rider. Most of the features are geared more towards intermediate to advanced riders. I'd personally recommend Blackhawk only to intermediate to expert riders. Expert riders, you can get your big jumps in there, you can get your massive features in there, and then intermediate riders, you can get some fun rides in the woods, you know, rollers, berms, etc. And you have some features that'll allow you to work your way up to the more bigger advanced features. Badger Prairie is a trail system 15 minutes from downtown Madison. It features some of the worst mountain biking terrain in the nation, and I'd recommend you avoid them at all costs. It's mostly a cross-country running trail and a place for people to walk their dogs. The trails are mostly green grass as opposed to dirt single track. If you're looking for a good trail to do as a beginner, I'd really recommend you check out Middleton Bike Park or Seminole instead. The quality of the riding's going to be much better, and you're actually going to learn how to mountain bike there as opposed to just pedal on grass. The only people I'd recommend this to are for those who simply want a safe space to ride their bike. It is good for getting exercise outdoors instead of on a trainer indoors. I don't have any footage of me riding here because I went there once and decided I probably don't need to bring a camera there at all. It's a great park for the average person. I'm not saying, the town of Madison isn't good to build it. A lot of people walk their dogs there, they do cross-country running there, but it's not built for mountain bikers, so I'd recommend you avoid it. Camrock is a large trail system that's about 30 minutes east of downtown Madison. It's actually the only trail close to Madison that is east of Madison. Most of the terrain at Camrock is intermediate cross-country terrain with natural features such as rock jumps and drops. It also has some mild man-made berms and rock and root gardens. It has pretty much everything. It's a really great trail system for the average rider who is looking to take a trip out of the city, ride some great trails, and get some exercise. With the size of the trail system and the distance from Madison, it's really awesome for weekend trips, and in fact, a lot of the parking spots have grills near them, shaded picnic tables, so it can be fun to go there for a few hours, get some good riding in, and then grill out in the parking lot after. In addition to intermediate terrain, it has some expert level terrain as well. The most noteworthy areas of Camrock are Cliff's Edge, Area 51, and Mayor's Playground. Cliff's Edge features riding on the edge of a small cliff. It has drastic changes in steepness, many natural rock gardens, and occasional man-made gap jumps and wood drops. I personally really like riding on Cliff's Edge. I was thinking to myself wow, this place is just really cool. I've never ridden anything like this before, and the very first time I rode it, I was actually living in Indiana. So the feature really is cool, and it really is steep compared to what we have in Indiana. Area 51 features man-made drops and gap jumps that are very large and technical. They require good skills and balance to ride. The big features on Area 51 are completely optional, so beginners can ride the trail and take a look. The features are super obvious. You'd have to be really dumb to actually go off one of them without realizing it. There are some fun wood bridges and rollers that intermediate riders can totally do comfortably as well, so it's not just for experts. When I did go there as an intermediate rider, I thought it was really cool to just see what kind of features people can bike and kind of gasp in awe at how big they were and how scary they were. Third kind of expert area also does feature an intermediate line, just so you know, it's Mayor's Playground. Mayor's Playground is a man-made flow and jump line with an intermediate section and an expert section. The expert section has jumps and drops up to about 13 feet long. The jumps and drops are a mix of tables and gaps, so walk this trail before doing it the first time. It requires a lot of speed to clear all of the features on the expert line, so I'd only really recommend Mayor's Playground for advanced riders or those looking to session a feature until you get it perfect. I will say the sightlines on Mayor's Playground aren't great for sessioning, and there aren't many super good spots to hike up the trail, so definitely be careful if you decide to do this, and please don't hike up the trail unless you can see far enough to know that there aren't other riders coming. In addition to all this expert terrain, Camrock has miles and miles of just regular old blue and green terrain. The terrain's a lot of fun. They do have some cool smaller features, so it really is a great place to go for pretty much everyone. I'd recommend Camrock for intermediate riders looking to get a solid ride in and work on their skills, or expert riders looking to get themselves into some crazy stuff. The trail system is massive for being so close to Madison, so it's a great place to have a long weekend ride at. Quarry Ridge is a small trail system 10 to 15 minutes west of downtown with about 5 miles of trails. It is directly accessible from the road bike trail system in Madison. Although the total square footage, the area of land at Quarry Ridge, is very small, the trail builders have packed a ton of great trails into here. There are great flat trails for beginners and families, as well as steep double black trails with sketchy rock rolls and drops for the advanced riders. The most notable areas of Quarry Ridge are Sandy Bowl, the Sisters Jump Line, and Pork Chop. However, every trail at Quarry Ridge is unique and worth doing. Sandy Bowl is a free ride area where you can ride literally anywhere you want. It has a sandy base with some areas of hard-packed dirt, roots, and rocks that make it rideable because your tires kind of dig into the sand, so you can't take like an all-sand line. It's a great area for expert riders because you can make your own lines and hit the sketchiest features near Madison. It kind of feels like a minified version of those Red Bull lines you see people digging in like Utah for Red Bull Rampage, except instead of jumping 50 feet, you're jumping like 3 feet, but it's still a ton of fun. The Sisters jump lines are intermediate and expert level jump lines that run parallel to each other down the trails. They are both easily hikeable, making Quarry Ridge a great place to learn how to jump because you can just ride the jumps down and safely hike back up. There are like 1 or 2 trail crossings, so you can't just blindly hike up, but it should be pretty obvious, like when you're hiking up the trail and you come to a crossing, you just look both ways and you're all set. The Little Sister jump line has small 3 to 5 foot tables where I personally learned how to jump. It also features a small, medium, and large wood drop that are all next to each other, so you can kind of progress to learning how to do large drops. Quarry Ridge is probably the best place in Madison to learn how to drop because of the drop progression line alone. After you graduate from Little Sister, you can do the Big Sister jump line, which has jumps up to about 13 feet long. These jumps are my favorite in the Madison area because they're close to downtown, very well built, hikeable, and have a lot of hang time. My favorite part of Quarry Ridge is that people just like to hang out there. There's a central base area at the top that gives you access to every single trail there. Because of this, when you bike to the top of Quarry Ridge, you're forced to go to this base area, and you just see people out there hanging out. You can meet a lot of new friends there. For those of you who don't like hitting jumps, Quarry Ridge still has plenty to offer. The Pork Chop Trail is a regional favorite, featuring a fast downhill with rollers and optional jumps and drops. This is probably the fastest trail at Quarry Ridge, and one of the fastest trails near Madison in general. You can get really cooking on this. I think I can go like pretty easily 25 miles an hour and 30 if I push it. Northwoods has cross-country style terrain that goes up and down and has a few berms and jumps. It's probably the longest downhill run at Quarry Ridge because it's actually mostly up and down back there. It takes about 5 minutes to 7 minutes to complete. Drop Zone, Tunnel Trail, Bottoms Up, and Beeline are all kind of technical downhill trails with intermediate to expert features that are good for preparing to race enduro or downhill. One of my favorite parts about Quarry Ridge is that each one of these trails has at least one super unique and noteworthy feature, which makes them totally worth doing. There is a green trail called Dizzy, and it's awesome for beginners or families. It features mostly flat and smooth terrain with the occasional drop or feature sprinkled in. When you get older, the features don't seem as big, but to kids, they really are big. They have a small wooden bridge with some small rollers, and I can imagine your kids will just love biking here. To conclude, I'd recommend Quarry Ridge for anyone looking to mountain bike. They have terrain at all levels, and that and Middleton Bike Park are really the only trails here that I'd encourage everyone to check out. If you took the intermediate trails at Camrock and made them a lot harder, you would be at Blue Mound. Blue Mound has about 10 miles of the most brutal, punishing terrain near Madison. It has extreme climbs through rock gardens that are very difficult to clear. To this day, I've never made it up all of the uphills while staying on my bike. However, the climbs are rewarded by awesome downhill terrain. Do know it is about a 35-minute drive west of Madison, but I still lump it in with trails that are close to Madison because a 35-minute drive really isn't that bad. You can do it after work, but with the length of the trails, it's really more suited to weekend riding. The most famous trail at Blue Mound is called Holy Schist. It's a black diamond, but most features are optional and easy to spot, so it's possible to do the entire trail as an intermediate rider and just walk the features you don't want to do. I wouldn't recommend doing Holy Schist as a beginner because even though you could probably bike through it, you are quite far from the car if something goes wrong, and it probably just wouldn't be very much fun. Most of the features on Holy Schist are rocks made into jumps, rock gardens, root gardens, and just good old-fashioned natural terrain. They do have a few berms there, but I wouldn't really call it a flow line. It's more like just adventure-style backcountry mountain biking. There are a lot of rocks there as well. Check out my full trail review on Blue Mound if you want to see what the full system looks like. Spoiler alert, it does in fact rock. There's not too much to say about Blue Mound other than it's long and it has some advanced terrain. It's really good for expert riders looking to get a good workout in, or intermediate riders looking for an adventure. It's about 35 minutes west of Madison as well, so it feels kind of remote as a result and more like an adventure. They also do have some car camping spots there, so it can be fun to car camp there, get a little mini vacation from Madison, and ride some of the trails there. I personally enjoy Blue Mound if I'm looking to do a longer ride and feel like I'm taking an adventure in the woods. I don't find any of the downhill features that challenging, but the uphills are still a huge challenge for me. Seminole is a smaller trail system in Madison. It's about 10 to 15 minutes from downtown. One of the cool things about it is that you can access it directly from the road biking network that goes around Madison, Fitchburg, and Verona. So that's super cool. You don't need a car to get there at all. You don't have to bike on a road to get there. You can just take the paved path and it drops you right at the trailhead. Despite its low 2.5-star rating for mountain biking on trail forks, I personally think this is a great place to ride, especially for beginners or intermediate riders. I personally don't get out there too often, but it's basically just one big outer loop and then one inner loop with slightly more technical terrain. Seminole is a great spot for cross-country riders or beginners because the terrain is mostly flat and smooth. There are some optional small jumps and drops that are awesome for those trying to work on their skills. Additionally, it's not too long and it's one big loop, so you're always close to the car, but I would recommend taking the bike path there instead. I unfortunately don't have footage of Seminole, but I've been there multiple times with beginners and they've enjoyed it every single time. It's also still fun for advanced riders because there are some drops, there are some jumps that you can try to boost, and there are some drops that you can take in reverse and try to climb up. I'd recommend 6 of the 7 main trails in the Madison area for mountain biking. Beginners will love Middleton Bike Park, Quarry Ridge, and Seminole because it has small features that will allow you to work on your skills, and smooth trails if you want to work on your cardio and just enjoy being in the woods. Intermediate riders will enjoy Quarry Ridge, Blackhawk, and Camrock because they feature slightly larger features as well as very solid blue square trails that require decent cardio to enjoy. Advanced riders or those looking to really push themselves will enjoy Quarry Ridge, Blackhawk, Camrock, and Blue Mound because they have large features that require expert level skills or long difficult trails that require great cardio to enjoy. As always, if you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching and please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out small creators like myself.